but you don't scream. You don't scream around the house. You don't yell. You don't like, I need that. Like, why are you? You know, like maybe move your butt, go around and talk to that person, and don't yell around like a primitive. You get it? A person who has a divine connection understands that, and they go happily out of their way to just make that effort, because for them it's not an effort. Because they say, what else should I do? Yell around like an ape all the time at my family? No, obviously not. Like, I'd rather walk the stairs 100 times before I bring so much yelling and disruption into my home. Okay? So you see, a lot of uncultivated behavior comes out of not being connected to the divine. And an uncultivated person, I'm like a person without a divine connection, a secular person, cannot understand that really well. For them, that is normal. And I witness it in a lot of families. All right, welcome to another episode. This one is an episode which I highly cherish and thought about a lot, especially in the last years. And we come down to basically the principle or a big recommendation I can give anyone who's just a little bit of faithful and has cultivated that and connected to that, that there's a really good advice in the biblical studies that faithful people should stick to faithful people, and that everything else will usually lead to an enormous amount of trouble. And I will go into that now. And you can see it in that way that it's still celebrated actively, in that way that the Jews are still encouraged, not just encouraged, but it's more or less it's a law for them, a mitzvot, to just marry other Jews. No secular people. And I wouldn't see it too strictly in that way. I will tell you about that in a second, but it more or less means a faithful person should stick to a faithful person. And it comes down to a lot. It's not just about the same values that you practice every day. That is, for sure, that is a part of it, but sometimes it can also be enriching having a partner who brings in different spice. You get it, right? So definitely, it helps with compatibility a lot. If you have the same faith, right? But there's more to it. So in the Bible also it's often mentioned that the Jews should not marry from different tribes who are not faithful, who are faithful to other gods, because they might be badly influenced by that. So you might say, okay, then they pray to another god, that would not be great. Like, it's not even about that. It's that they lose their faith in the monotheistic way that there is just one God. God is goodness, God is love, and you can get easily distracted by different things. For example, that you have a person who has no divine connection, so they don't pay attention to that at all. Like, goodness for them is not a quality they really aspire in life. But then all of a sudden, they are so much into this, maybe the sport, and that is so holy for them, you know, and they just can't let go of it. And you know, watching soccer or whatever is so important, and going to the stadium all the time, it's almost like a religion for them. And that is really not great. Not great. That is dangerous. That is idol worship. Because the only thing which will really make your life sustainably better over a long term and bring you extremely high quality is the understanding of what God wants to tell you, and not praying that your soccer team wins. Doesn't mean you can't go enjoy soccer anymore, but if you make that your main thing and not improving and working on yourself and your life and your marriage and whatever it is, that's gonna end very terrible, right? So you don't want that. Never. Don't think even about it. That is why they say don't go for a secular person. That person will never understand that stuff. They will just get lost around in different things, and it will drag that into you. And you will get lost too. You will start praying to other gods. You will start losing your ways, because they're like, yeah, you know, today is like the Jews celebrate the Sabbath. Yeah, today's Sabbath, but you know, maybe we can just do something. It's not so important, right? Anyway. And things like these. It starts always small, or let's make it a bit shorter, you know. We can just, you know. Yeah. It's like, with your diet, and we were like, yeah, you know, just one donut. Like, it's just a small donut, you know, just breaking it a bit. You get it. It's always starts small, and over time you're lost too. It's always like this. Especially because when you are tight with a person, it's not just your energy anymore. When you're alone, you're great. But when you're with another person in a relationship or a marriage, you have half their energy. Physically, because you sleep with that person, you get half the energy. After you have intercourse with that another person, you have half their energy. And you need then to live with that energy when you're in a relationship that is constant. So the new human which gets born, the original human when men and women unite in the Bible, is the consolidation of both, and that is a new energy, and it is half from both parts. So you will lose your ways partially always when you go into these situations. So be really, really careful of that. Now there's even more to that. People who have a covenant with the divine, who are connected to the divine, they form extremely healthy and strong connections, or can do that at least. Like divorce exists obviously in all kinds of faith. The reason is just that the divine facilitates values, a lot of values. I would always say virtues arise out of a sense of the divine, and the sense for the divine arises out being virtuous. So they are inevitably connected. So a strong connection and a healthy relationship and marriage comes automatically with faith to a certain degree. I would not just say certain degree, but absolutely. But I mean, you don't have to be all progress that far already. Okay. So usually the sense of God just comes when you are further progress and you understand things. But it does not matter, And a few things arise, for example, that you should not scream around at home all the time. That you need a peaceful home. For your kids, for your wife, because peace is respect. Doesn't mean that you can't get respect by speaking in a very educated and precise, but also maybe in a bit, pressuring manner. That is fine. But you don't scream. You don't scream around the house. You don't yell. You don't like, I need that. Like, why are like maybe move your butt, go around and talk to that person, and don't yell around like a primitive. You get it? A person who has a divine connection understands that. And they go happily out of their way to just make that effort, because for them it's not an effort. Because they say, what else should I do? Yell around like an ape all the time at my family? No, obviously not. Like, I'd rather walk the stairs 100 times before I bring so much yelling and disruption into my home. Okay? So you see, a lot of uncultivated behavior comes out of not being connected to the divine. And an uncultivated person, I'm like a person without a divine connection, a secular person, cannot understand that really well. For them, that is normal. And I witness it in a lot of families. These people often can't get it. They lack the understanding, which is fine. I don't say that they need to. But if you mix both of them, it's going to be really tough if one of the other persons doesn't live up to it. And there's a lot more in the divine in these qualities. So, for example, nurturing peace. Where does it come from? For example, the divine teaches you, and that is what I always say, the opposite of blasphemy. The divine teaches you that the fundamental nature of everything is goodness. All right? When you have that in your heart, there's not going to be a lot of drama. And even if there's drama, what drama means, there's small problems and they are made bigger. Okay? Then you have a drama person. Very often in secular world. But if you have a good-hearted person, they will take a big problem and make it disappear or smaller. All right? And that is a divine quality. I witnessed it 100 billion times that I met people from faithful directions, and if they were cultivated, they had this sense of goodness, loving, caring, and you could throw anything at them and they would just absorb it, just make it disappear, deal with it. They would not make it bigger. They would not, this is so terrible. They would just take action to fix it and to help people. If something drops, they just pick it up. They don't oh, the streets are so dirty. Oh, that person never does something, blah, blah, blah. They just take action. They go over, hey, could you maybe pick that up next time? Or just do it anyway, right away themselves. You know, they do something against it. They don't have that. And they understand that sometimes also maybe the circumstances are like that. I had one colleague totally messed up in a certain situation. But yeah, he had a sick child at home. A really sick child, like chronically sick. So yeah, you know, people usually don't want to do that. People don't love messing up other people's life. You need to have a bigger vision for that. And goodness and that understanding comes from faith. Because it's a fundamental nature of divine and goodness in God. So values arise from divine connection. And it also will tell you how to raise children then. So if you have a person, I think it does not even matter that much which faith. If you have another faithful person with a faithful person, they will align really well with each other regarding values. And it will, for the major reason that, as I told you, it has nothing to do with religion. Values have nothing to do with religion. If you lie a lot, you're gonna suffer. And it doesn't matter which religion you look at, it's always the same story. Do you get it? Because it's a fundamental property of existence, which all religions try to describe. Okay. So you need to understand that. And also need to understand, and that is something I see a lot in secular people, that they are very passive. They are not active. They see a problem and they just think they can just chill out about it. It scares the hell out of me when people do that. One example, their health goes down and they don't get up and do something about it. They complain, oh, the health service, and I needed to wait all the time by the doctor so long, and the medicine is so expensive. But then you look at them and they never do anything. They don't get their ass up, they don't do sports, they don't improve their food and whatever. But on the other hand, you know, they suffer and complain about it. They don't go active, they don't go forward, they don't do stuff. And when they do, they complain, and then they drop back again. And one thing I definitely see in a lot of faithful people is that they understand that value is created through work, being active, being proactive, okay? Not to let things deteriorate. And that is a divine quality. Then you have the best chances with a faithful person to get that. What I say by that is also with relationships and marriages, you need to do the same. You can't just let that thing rest. You need to work constantly on it. And sure, there will be difficulties and screw-ups a bit from both sides, and there will be friction. All right, but you just need to sit down all the time and work through it. That is how it works, and not deteriorate it. And when you feel it deteriorates, it gets boring or both get distant, you need to act proactive. You need to feel it. And before you get to the divorce papers, you need to do... Divorce papers is usually way too late, you know? If you want to turn the ship around before it crashes into shore, yeah, sure, because what a great idea. You should have maybe turned around like 1.5, 2 years ago. You get it? So you need to be active, proactive. And people with faith, they understand that and love that. They not just do it because they're like, oh, there's no other option. No, they're like, yes, this is the only way. But we, you know, it's work, but what we get out of it, that is incredible. You know, how we get rewarded for our service to the divine. That is how many, like how I would phrase it. You do something for the divine by making the world better, and by that you get rewarded. Okay? So if both are faithful in a relationship, they renew it constantly and improve it, and that's gonna keep it going forever. Because the thing gets recharged all the time, infinitely, through divine energy, and reborn. And that is great. That is really, really great, but hard. Don't get me wrong. And if one of them doesn't do that, it's gonna fall apart at some point. You're just gonna have like a couch potato thing. Horrible. Yeah. So both need to accept responsibilities and hardships. That is the part. That there is responsibility you can't run away from, but you chose it and you love it. And it's gonna make your life better. Even though it seems like it chains you. You give up freedom to gain greater value and maybe also greater freedom. Like you don't go out for spending a coffee, but that money, if you invest it, you gain more freedom later on. So you give away lower tier freedom to higher tier freedom and accept the hardships, maybe also, for example, raising children. But that creates a lot of value, not financial value, but different value. I mean, also maybe financial value. Yeah, so value creation goes through hardship. Everyone with faith understands that. And also the understanding that things are not always bad when they're bad. Like, I had times where I was broke, and the moment I got more money, I'm living my best life at the moment because I was broke. And people are always like, yeah, but you can get used to it, that you have more money. And I'm like, no. Like, every day I stand up, I remember when I was broke. And I'm so grateful every single day, really every day, where I'm not broke anymore. So yeah, like sometimes you need the opposite, and faithful people are fine with that too. They understand it, that anything can turn all the time, but they are gonna be fine, So you need to put in the willingness and the effort to move something, and to also put yourself back, that there are things greater than you, and that means taking on responsibility. If you have children, for example, they are more important. It's not about you then anymore. It's about them. You need to make sure that they are fine. You put yourself back from that moment on. Your needs are not primary anymore. Their needs are. And you need to get shit done to help them become really good, great humans and raise them well. Okay? So there are things greater than you. Relationships, family, society. Also, being of service. And yeah, raising your children is always better. And there are keys to having a beautiful relationship. And my personal opinion experience is the willingness to create and work for a shared life. To sit down and say, I want this thing more than anything. Right? To have really this, I'm all in. Not holding back, not having a foot out of the window. And you can't do that if you're not faithful. Because faith means that you're out there, you go with a boat out in the ocean and you have no idea whether you're going to make it. But somehow, it's scary, that thought. But there's this promised land somewhere. But you're going to get there if you just are faithful into the process of doing it. And it's going to be hard. But it's going to work out. So that is that part. Okay? The willingness to work for a better life. And it's scary as hell. But if you just go for it, you're gonna be fine. All in. No holding back. No keeping other pet friends around, which you might then, marry if that fails. Nothing of that. You pick a person, and if you have trouble, you don't look for another person. You sit down with your partner and you work things out. Especially when you have children. It's your responsibility to fix that situation. And you can always do something. So you need to connect and build up connection. That is the crucial piece. And keep that connection alive. And that connection, that is something I want to say is, that connection comes through the divine. That makes the whole difference. If two secular people connect, they look for hobbies, they look for different things, but that is all nonsense. That is all idolatry. Because that changes anyway. Who knows whether I'm going to have the same hobbies in 10 years than my partner. Like, it's not that important to have the same hobbies and these very superficial things. So what matters? The divine connection, the values, the love and care. I told you, all of these deeper things. A person who's good-hearted. And a person who also appreciates you and respects you. Because relationships are born out of respect. Relationships are not just, love is the sugar. But the fundamental principle of a relationship is respect for each other, because both put in the effort. You really need to do that. There's no way around it. And usually, as a guy, you lose a woman if you lose her respect. Because you did something really stupid. And the other way around. So respect is of utmost importance. And to uphold that is a continuous thing. Okay? So that's really it. And by that, you build the connection. And then you can add the sugar. Yeah. But that essentially is why a divine person, or a person with a divine connection, let's phrase it like that, should marry another faithful person. Because it will yield just a much better, healthy marriage, relationship, or whatever. And that is also why, for example, still nowadays we have the principle that the Jews should marry Jews. Why they are so focused on that. And it seems rigid sometimes, or really difficult or bad. But also from my personal experience, if you have a faithful connection or a divine connection, it's very difficult with secular people. Really, really difficult. Maybe not for some time, but hardship is always around the corner. I can tell you that. And the second problem also with that, and I warn also people a bit there, a person who's not divinely connected, you can't just build that. Like building that is hard. Like we don't talk about, oh, I got that secular person, and then maybe, in half a year or a year, we're gonna work it out. Like, no, a year? You wanna turn a person's life completely around in a year? Like some people, they can't lose the habit of smoking or anything, like these very true, like how do you want to get them to improve themselves tenfold until they feel a sense of God? Like that is a tough one. Like I would say that is 5 to 10 years. Like working on people is hard. So if you have someone really distant from you in the beginning already, good luck. You're gonna lose a lot of time. I lost a lot of time. I'm quite honest there too. Like turning secular people around, really, really, like if it's ever gonna work out, it's gonna take an enormous amount of time. And here's the next thing, and I told you that in the video before. You can't change people. They need to want to change themselves. But if they come around and they want to change their faith because of you, that won't work, because you change faith of faith. Because if you love a person really and you say, I want to become a better person because I want to give my spouse or my husband the best wife I can provide. I want to make this thing the best thing I ever could. And that is my daily motivation. Okay? Then the thing is, when you go like in with that spirit, it's not like you change because of the other person comes like, yeah, this will only work if I have that faith. Okay, then I will adapt it. Doesn't work. You need to have this conviction from inside, I told you, Jess. Okay? If you just do it superficially then I just become a Christian, that's fine. Like, no, you're not going to be a real Christian. And it will show because you need to work on yourself and walk the divine path. And that's going to be tough. It's really going to be tough. Like if you're lost into video games and all kinds of really crazy stuff and you need to figure out that, okay, maybe that is not great, doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. But if you're spending most of your spare time with that and not with your spouse to improve their relationship or with your kids, because you're lost in your stuff, good luck. Really good luck. So yeah, that is a little talk and lesson about why divine people always say divine people. It's really a terrible name. Why people connected to the divine should stick to other divinely connected people. All right. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Like and subscribe if you like it. And we're going to dive more into different topics like this.